So my wife and I were married young. We were born and raised in a Christian environment, and we knew the faith that we were raised in, but we didn't own it. We went through a period in our marriage where we had some struggles stemming from not being solid in our faith. And when you're not solid in your faith, the devil finds ways to slowly break you down. For me, it was started with success. Our business was taken off, which for me meant I was gone 2 or 3 days a week on average. At the same time, one of my bigger dreams of my singing group, we won the world championship, which took us out of country and out of state at least 1 to 2 weekends a month. The devil slowly started to pick away at me there, and the only way I could achieve all of those things being gone so often is for my wife to sacrifice, which at the time I didn't see. So we slowly stripped away things that made her who she was, took away her business, her social outings with her friends. Things slowly had to give in order for her to be home more with the kids so that I could go fulfill my dreams. And I found myself not as attracted to the woman that I married. And being with a group of guys traveling who are not believers, found myself playing along with the things they did and being completely involved in looking at women, rating women. And when you get to a place like that where your pride is boosted and you are surrounded by non-believers who are all involved, it slowly becomes part of who you are, and it did for me. So I'd come home and I would feel a need to have that attraction, that desire, that ability to be pursued, that ability to be to pursue. I got heavily addicted to pornography. Once you're there and you are falling down consistently with pornography, it's not long and you're numb to the rest of it. And so for me, before long, I was having affairs behind my wife's back. And for me, it wasn't, after a few months of this, it was, as with any addiction, a slow road down, and I lost complete control of my life. So I got to a point in my life where I was fairly disgusted with the man that I had become, and I began to see it affect every area of my life. And one day, I was sitting in my office with my buddy who sat behind me, and he turned around and said to me, "I'm studying Revelation," and he said, "I'm kind of fired up." He said, "Do you realize that we have one shot here on this earth? And if we don't get it right, we burn in hell for eternity." And I don't know why, but that day I was at a low, and it hit me really, really hard. And I realized at that moment that the whole time I had been pleading with God to take it away, I had been holding on to it. I was hanging on to my desire and the addiction. And at that moment, finally that day, I realized that I needed to surrender. He took away this addiction that had been consuming me for years. And Jesus stepped up and said, "Hey, throw your net to the other side, let's start over." And he did that for me that day. My wife loved this new man. She loved the fact that we were praying together, reading together. I was trying through that period of time to get away from this without actually having to confess it to my wife. One day I was reading in James where it says to confess your sins to one another so you can be forgiven. That day I went home and I confessed to my wife, which was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. And so we separated for a while. After a period of time, we started to talk, started to communicate, and then Easter weekend came. We decided to do communion at home together. And once we got done, she said to me, "I can't accept Christ's forgiveness on Easter unless I can forgive you." And so that Easter 2 years ago, she forgave me for the sin that I had committed over and over against her. For the first time in my life, I have accountability. Our marriage is something that's real. We are so held on hiding the sin in our lives and not being willing to open up to each other, to God, about what we're fighting. And I believe the moment we can do that, He shows Himself. I know I would say, and I know my wife would say, it was the best and the worst thing that ever happened to us, but ultimately the best thing.